Hi, I'm Ken Howard, and welcome to the Gay Therapy LA podcast. Today, I want to talk about gay men and gym crushes. Cherish your romantic notions. Recently, a friend of mine at lunch mentioned that someone at a nearby table looked like his gym crush. And turned out not to be, and my friend told another story. But his use of the terminology stayed with me and got me thinking that term, gym crush, was used in casual conversation with him just knowing that I would know what he meant, as if to say, don't we all have gym crushes? While not all gay men are regularly in a gym, it sure seems like it, based on observed crowds there, conversations, and the proliferation of gym-toned bodies among groups of gay men worldwide. I'm starting to think we all do have gym crushes. They can take many forms. The guy we always see at the gym whose physique we admire, and he provides entertainment and eye candy, inspiration, and maybe a bit of wistfulness that he is unattainable to mere mortals like ourselves. Maybe we've observed something about him that makes him feel unattainable to us, like he runs with a better crowd, or you've seen him be buddy-buddy with some A-list attitude queen, and you just know if he's friends with that bitch, he ain't gonna give us the time of day. I'm teasing. But maybe we've seen him there with a woman who is apparently his girlfriend. In our minds, we spin that story. Maybe she drags her hot boyfriend to the gay gym so that he can get his ego stroked, if nothing else, by the gay guys gawking at him, which gives him swagger when he's with her. The scenarios, both real and heavily embellished by imagination, are numerous. More than once, I've had clients in my therapy practice process in their sessions that they have fallen in love with their personal trainer, or process the disappointment that their gym crush would never go out with them, especially if they don't ask. What is it about the gym for gay men that causes fantasy, FOMO, fear of missing out, and frustration? Other articles I've written, other podcast episodes about gay men and the gym are on my episode list about the gym fitness connection, things like that. But right now, I'd like to explore what gym-related fantasies mean for the mental health and well-being of gay men. I think it has to do with perception versus reality. All of us have two sets of thought patterns: the moment-to-moment conscious reality and the parallel process where fantasy, imagination, risk assessment, defenses, and daydreams live. There's the reality of the external person, and there is our psychological understanding of them through the internalized interject of the object, we say in psychology, which may or may not have any relation to reality. We see them in the real world, our gym crush, and then we internalize them through our own interpretation of what we're seeing and understanding. So over the years of my career, 29 years actually in 2021 as a gay men's specialist, therapist, and coach, I've had clients discuss their attraction to their personal trainers at the gym. And I find that many guys who can afford private practice therapy also can afford personal trainers at the gym, among other professional services. So the trainer-client relationship can have dynamics not unlike the therapist-client relationship. Now, the therapist-client relationship, ethically and legally, can never involve sex. That's a no-no in the field. But the trainer-client relationship theoretically could, legally, but I think it only rarely does. Yet there can be, certainly, a romanticized or erotic transference in both cases. Transference are the feelings from the client to the provider that each need their own perspective of in therapy. In therapy, the analysis of the transference that we say is a classic Freudian psychodynamic therapy technique that is part of the process and can lend valuable information about the unconscious drives for behavior. In the gym, it's lower stakes overall, but it still has meaning to look at that transference relationship. Countertransference would be the feelings from the provider toward the client, and that's something I've done in what we call the clinical supervision of new clinicians as they're getting trained, is what are their own reactions as the client speaks to them. But clients of mine in my practice have described how a gym trainer's attention and focus on improving a client's well-being by way of improving their physique and fitness can be experienced as a paternal or fraternal type of primal nurturance, which can lead to strong feelings in return. The unconditional support, encouragement, belief, challenge, and praise reaches us on an important emotional levels. And they help to address some of our deepest insecurities. And in these ways, the trainer-therapist overlap can be significant, among other dynamics that are in the relationship, like resistance. How much are you resisting the interventions of the therapist or the trainer? No, I don't want to do that. Complaints. When the clients don't do their homework. Approach avoidance. I had another episode on that about approach avoidance, the ambivalence of wanting a goal but then avoiding it and sabotaging yourself. There's guilt, there's motivation, and perhaps even some difficulties of when to start and when to stop professional services. And when people help us out in the ways that are very important to us, our feelings of gratitude and appreciation can become strong, even into the romantic and even eroticize by how their help makes us feel. This can sometimes be awkward, such as if our feelings are not requited, such as if our trainer is in a different league in terms of gay male peers. His tricks and his boyfriends are other fitness professionals, why we languish as mere mortals. He's in a monogamous gay relationship, or of course he's just straight. Most of my trainers have been, but obviously very cool with their majority gay male clientele that they're training. Clients have described this loving from afar scenario in any or all of these cases, leaving their feelings that are directed toward their internalized introject of their trainers in their minds as fantasy. The idealized trainer love object represents both the reality that they are standing right there with us, sometimes in the intimate contact of spotting us for weight training safety, or even platonic physical contact, and the fantasy that they have no life outside the gym. They exist only as the idealized supermen that we long to be just like them. Let's talk about together and yet apart. Maybe our gym crush is not a personal trainer, but simply a peer who goes to the same gym as we do. We might not know them at all or have never spoken to them, but there's a familiarity and maybe even a camaraderie, of being just fellow gym members at the same place. Here's an example for you. A number of years ago, I was on vacation from LA to New York City, and I visited a local gym in Manhattan's Chelsea, the kind of gay neighborhood. I think that varies from year to year. But anyway, back then, Chelsea was the place to be for gay men. And I bought a day pass to a local gym, and as I passed through the room with all the life cycles in it, a guy was riding one whom I had seen at my home gym in LA. And he immediately recognized me and greeted me with a smile and hello as he was pedaling on his life cycle, when he had never acknowledged me back in LA. And yet, when we were both back in LA, he went back to not acknowledging me. But there was that brief, we are part of the same gym community and we recognize each other somewhere else thing. For whatever reason, as peers at our home gym, there was this distance. but the NYC greeting was acknowledging that we were both a part of something. We were both so dedicated to our gym attendance that we did it even while we were on vacation. My previous workout partner, with whom I had worked out 4 times per week for 4 years until he kind of left me to work out with a younger, hotter guy whom he paid for training just to be near him, whatever. And he and I used to have nicknames for various hotties at the gym, whom we never met, but we knew them somewhat from recognizing them through gym visits over time. And then if one of us had to miss a workout, we would call each other and debrief after. We'd say, well, who was there? Oh, well, Mr. Shirt was there. Oh, and he had on these tight new shorts. Woof. And Mr. Visa Gold Card was there too, but he had a limp from some kind of injury. They all had these nicknames that had some kind of story behind them. And there was a vivid cast of characters, and the banter was funny, and, one more example of gay men's apparent inherent gift for, amusing repartee. Gay men at the gym, can make up all kinds of attributes and histories and backstories and traits about our gym crushes. It's that reality versus fantasy parallel at work. Let's look at lessons from Broadway musicals. Broadway musicals, which are part of my obsession, explore this idea often that we live both in the real world and in an alternate reality of our own perception. Kiss of the Spider-Woman from 1992, John Kander and Fred Ebb, does this. It's about a gay man in jail who uses dissociation and fantasy as a means to cope with being there. And the iconic gay diva icon, American dancer and musical star Chita Rivera, originated the role of Aurora, which is the fantasy Spider-Woman in the show. And she has a song called Where You Are. And the lyrics go, you've got to learn how not to be where you are. The more you face reality, the more you scar. So close your eyes and you'll become a movie star. Why must you stay where you are? So at the gym, all bets are on that blank canvas for our fantasies to thrive. It's like a movie screen that we're playing and projecting in our minds. And isn't that kind of a theme for all of us? I mean, sure, you could see the gym as a simple self-care habit that doesn't have poetic meanings. But it can also mean something different. Not just exercise, but the place where we work consistently and somewhat arduously to address the bridge between the reality that we are and the vision of what we are becoming, such as being a guy with a couple inches less on his belly and an inch more on each bicep. Or maybe it's about bringing our heart rate and blood pressure and health risks down while we bring our size and strength and stamina up. And sometimes it's about hating ourselves a little less and loving ourselves more. I've written my own musical about this, and it's called On the Boulevard. If you go to Facebook and look up On the Boulevard music, or even on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/KBHMSW. Those are my initials and my degree. SoundCloud.com/KBHMSW. You'll find some songs that I've uploaded if you want to hear those. And it's about gay men in West Hollywood. And I'm hoping sometime soon I can entice a theatrical producer to fund a production somewhere, LA somewhere, or somewhere else. And I've been working in my spare time, when I'm not being a therapist and coach, to record a concept album of the entire score. And it's about gay men at the gym. And it's about setting challenges for ourselves, the experience with the gym, working toward those goals, and facing what it means to really have to work to achieve a worthwhile goal. It's a long process, but a rewarding one too. And it can be a fun hobby, as you probably know. And the process of meeting challenges at the gym can be a metaphor for meeting challenges in any other aspect in our lives. So the balance of reality versus fantasy is something that gay men are used to. Dr. Alan Downs, in his classic book, The Velvet Rage, describes how gay men growing up historically develop the false self as a coping strategy for being gay in a generally anti-gay world. The idea that if we pass as straight as little boys or teenagers, we protect ourselves. That false self is a defense, and it's a protection against those who would criticize or even attack us. And sometimes it's the false self of blending in that's the fantasy. And others, it's the fantasy of reaching a point in life where we can really be who we are. Oftentimes, when we go off to college or move away from our parents' home especially. If the gym is a place where fantasy and reality alternate and blend, it's not like we haven't been doing this, the whole time we were growing up. We know all about that. Let's talk about the risks and the benefits of having the gym crush. What are the risks and benefits of alternating between living cognitively in reality versus living in fantasy? Well, I think it is what you make it. Too much reality and we can become overwhelmed with stressful feelings in life. Too much fantasy and we're deluding ourselves and we're dwelling in an unrealistic and impractical way, that could affect, negatively our life choices for our own well-being. So when we have a gym crush, it can be a fun flight of fancy that stimulates the imagination and acts as a simulator for our feelings of lust and love and admiration or imagination. But the risks are maybe that distracts us from the reality of meeting and dating, and potentially life partnering or marrying actual real other guys. And sometimes our gym crushes actually do become guys we are dating if we just give them and ourselves a chance to meet them and get to know them as humans and not just objects. Sometimes our Pinocchio fantasy becomes the real live boy. So maybe I'm overanalyzing all this, but as a long-term psychotherapist, that's kind of an occupational hazard. Therapists are trained to see patterns, consider unconscious processes, and look for ways that our current thoughts and behavior contribute to or detract from our quality of life and functioning. And we look at how our own thoughts and our own behaviors, especially in cognitive behavioral therapy, can be deliberately and consciously changed in order to improve our life, either at work or at home or in relationships or wherever we need to. So fantasies, daydreams, and a fun use of our imagination can be important components in the varied arsenal of defenses against everyday stress or depression or anxiety. They are part of the mental adaptive coping tools that we might use to get by, among the many tools we might use to get by. Let's go back to Broadway. There was an entire Broadway musical about this. In 1988, a show consisting of two one-act plays called Romance/Romance graced the stage on Broadway, and it remains one of my favorites to this day. It's basically the show that made heartthrob actor Scott Bakula a star, just before his big television hit Quantum Leap, and now I think he's on CSI New Orleans, I think. I don't think he's stopped working since 1988. But the first act of Romance is a period comedy of errors about a man and a woman who take delight in disguising and fooling each other and playing with the idea of disguise in social class, kind of like the Prince and the Pauper kind of story. The second act, though, is in a modern setting. It's called Summer Share, and it's about two heterosexual couples where in one, the husband from one pairing has an intense crush on the wife of the other couple. And okay, so spoiler alert, they don't actually consummate it during their summer share weekend away from city life, but they almost do. And the show resolves with the wife telling her opposite couple crush that she appreciates the attention, but it's better to stick with what they know. but she encourages him to cherish his romantic notion of the crush that is somehow helping him cope with the other stressors in his life, which need his attention more than she does. It's a highly sentimental dynamic, but, I'm a softie for romantic stories like that, and I really appreciated the themes that the authors were getting at. Now, while we can, have some serious implications to our fantasies, like in a situation like that, breaking a monogamy agreement or infidelity would have been serious for those couples. But most of the time, our imaginations and our flights of fancy are harmless emotional coping devices. Life would be boring without our dreams and our fantasies. So if you can keep your gym crushes in the proper perspective and allow them to guide you to explore your own feelings and what those fantasies mean to you on a deeper level, in your relationship to yourself and to others, then I think you're on the right track. Now, I encourage, when I quote lyrics like this, I do this really to promote the shows. So I really encourage you to visit Amazon.com or anywhere that you like to get CDs or recordings. See if you might like to buy a copy of The Kiss of the Spider Woman by John Kander and Fred Ebb, or Romance by Keith Herman and Barry Harmon. I think I'm getting their first names right. Anyway, it's Herman and Harmon. But I'll leave you with the character Monica in the show, in the closing moments of the show's final song. Often, when I feel the binds growing tight, I too take a flight of fancy. Picturing a dream as if it were true helps people get through the night and come out all right. We can light a spark when the world is growing dark. Let your vision soar. That's what dreams are for. Cherish your romantic notions. If we can learn to understand that being a grown-up means somehow navigating between a childlike fantasy view of the world and an adult's all too often cynical view of cold realities, we can find that space where we can cherish what our imagination gives to work with. And you know what? Mr. Shirt at the gym never even has to know. If you'd like support for making your dreams and goals a reality, consider therapy or coaching services from me at gaytherapyla.com or my associates. You can email Ken at gaytherapyla.com. That's Ken at gaytherapyla.com. Or call or text me in the United States at 01 area code 310-339-5778. So in the U.S., 310-339-5778. And I work with guys for therapy, where I'm licensed in California, and then I do life and career and relationship coaching to guys all over the United States and really all over the world. We just have to figure out the difference in time zones when we're scheduling sessions. So, and then I also offer services now that the COVID-19 restrictions are lifted in Los Angeles, in my office in LA near the Beverly Center Mall, if you're familiar with Los Angeles. Or we certainly can work by webcam or by phone worldwide. So, thanks, and I'll see you next time.